Most people in this world treat the Bible like a dusty history book, right? But they are missing the operational code to their own psychology. If you are tired of begging a distant God for change and receiving only silence, it is because you are missing the physics of assumption. So today, we are going to decode the book of the Sower, which is not as a religious lesson, but as a technical initiation into the sovereign power of your own mind. In Matthew 13, verses 3, the New King James Version says, "Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow." We are approaching this text as an initiation. By utilizing Hebraic etymology and the insights of Carl Jung and Neville Goddard, we aim to strip back the veil of the esoteric, which is the hidden internal reality. Too often, we interpret the Bible through a strictly exoteric lens, treating it as history rather than as a living manual for the mind. This old religious approach has distorted the true message, which is turning internal psychological states into external, distant idols. So when you look for a God out there or you wait for a physical miracle in the future, you are blinded to the power that you hold in this exact moment. And I'm going to show you. To understand how this limits you, you can look at how the old religion has sort of weaponized the text to keep you separate from your own divinity. We read about Moses or David as ancient celebrities, forgetting that the 1 Corinthians 10, verse 11 explicitly states that these accounts were written for our own admonition, which means that they are character studies of your mind. You are Moses. When you feel the urge to leave a toxic job, that Egypt is your current state of limitation. If you view Moses as a dead man, then it means that you wait for a physical staff to part a physical sea. But the Red Sea is the wall of doubt in your own mind that only you can command to part. The waiting room mentality, it treats the kingdom of heaven as a post-mortem reward, ignoring Luke 17, verse 21, which locates the kingdom of God within you. So if you're living in a cramped apartment or you're hating your life while waiting for a mansion in the sky, then you are refusing to tend to the garden of your current consciousness, right? You become a beggar to a Santa Claus God, pleading for luck as if Psalms 82, verse 6 didn't call you gods yourselves. In your daily life, this looks like saying, if it's God's will, while your own assumptions of unworthiness really are the things that are creating the failure that you fear. We treat sin as a criminal record, but the Greek hamartia and the Hebraic hata simply just means to miss the mark. So every time you look at your bank account and say, I am broke, yes, you are sinning, not against a rule, but against the bullseye of your own potential. As Proverbs 23:7 warns us, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. In Genesis 2, verse 7, the Lord God formed man from the dust and breathed in the breath of life. This is the ultimate psychological drama. We do not see this world as it is. We see this world as we are. This is the physics of projection. Think of two people at the same party. One sees friends, the other sees judgmental strangers. The room hasn't changed, but their eye has, right? Luke 11, verse 34 explains that the eye is the lamp of the body. In modern terms, this is the observer effect in physics, right? The act of observation collapses infinite possibilities into a single fixed reality. So if you wake up convinced it's a bad day, your eye will filter for red lights and rude comments, right? Ignoring the small wins you get, right? You are literally ordering a bad day from the menu of the universe. This is why Luke 9:60 commands us to let the dead bury their own dead. We need to stop focusing on the dead versions of ourselves, right? Your traumas, right, and past failures, right? An event does not solidify into reality until it enters our field of awareness, right? If someone bumps into you into a store and you don't notice, it basically never happened, right? The moment you notice, you decide it was either an accident or an insult, right? The decision that you've made in your mind, you have basically made the word become technically flesh, right? Now, in Hebrew, the word for the word, or the phrase for the word, is Dabar, right? It isn't just a sound, it is a thing and it is an action. So when the word sort of moves within you, matter must follow. This is the I am awareness that Neville Goddard is talking about, right? We are not separate from the world, right? We are not in this square. We are the circle, a unified whole where the light of consciousness permeates everything. If you want to master this language, I've created a new Aeon Lexicon, which is a PDF guide mapping these Hebraic terms to your daily psychological states. The link will be in the description, and you can join the newsletter to track your evolution beyond the analytics. In Matthew 13, verse 3, the I am consciousness, which hears the sower, initiates a seed of desire, right? The seed here is Zara, right? Potential, meaning offspring. The soil here, Adamah, the red earth, or the subconscious, right? Desire here is the wanting that produces an object, right? But listen closely, right? The disappointment that we feel when a desire does not manifest is ultimately a misunderstanding of the mechanics of faith. Faith is not hope, right? It is absolute conviction. The troubles and the trials that follow our desires are not punishments, right? They are initiating principles. They intentionally raise the standards required for us to maintain the state that we ask for, right? The work is not physical grinding, it is the internal work of maintaining the high even when worldly lows appear. So now we're going to talk about the four states of the mind, right? First, we get the wayside, which is in Hebrew, it means Dereka, right? It is the hard, packed ground of public opinion. This is the Doomscroller, right? We have a vision, but we immediately check the news or we check average statistics, right? We allow predatory doubts or the fouls or the off to sort of eat our potential, right? Then we get to the Stony places, right? Which is technically just a mind that is hardened by logic, right? When we feel emotional surges, this is what the text is saying when it's saying that the sun, which here we can interpret as the glare of our physical facts, these things are shining on our, the things that we tend to see in the world that are bad, right? We tend to detract from our goals because we have no root in the internal Father, which here is pronounced as Soros, right? And so then we encounter the thorns or Akantha, right? This is the fragmentation of being weary, right? These are competing intentions that are trying to, that's us trying to manifest wealth while also simultaneously obsessing over how we're going to pay the rent, right? The how is a thorn that creates a choke point, right, over the what. And so then at the end of the verse, right, we see the good ground, right? The kalos tav, right? A unified consciousness. Here, the fruit or karpos is a breakthrough that ultimately does multiply, our rewards 30 or 60 or 100 fold, right? Because the word has found a subconscious fit. So ultimately, when we're talking about creation or we're talking about soil, that's why I choose the parable of the sower, right? Because it leads us from the journey from, dust or how we were created or the dust of the initiation of desire itself to the spirit, right? Us understanding the eternal Father, right? And so this is a journey of disidentifying with the worldly understandings of, hard work and labor. It's not to say that those things are absent of the things that we must, accomplish or the things that we aim towards. However, it is saying that we have to disidentify with the flesh as the primary vehicle for accomplishing tasks, right? Believing in the Father is understanding that God is our perceptual awareness of how we understand the world, because it is ultimately divinity that we are moving through, right? Everything that God created in this world was good, right? It's not just the good things, it is also the bad things, right? We have to get out of this trap of human limitation, right? This channel demands that the circle, right, the recognition that we are the primary lever of God realized in consciousness, right? We have to stop being the soil that accepts every weed of doubt. We have to stop being the beggars at the gates of our own kingdom, which is exactly what the Bible is trying to teach us. This is trying to teach us that everything around us is ours. Literally, we must go for ourselves, right? We have to move from wanting, right, to knowing. So we have to be able to identify our desires, right? We have to be able to isolate the seed, and we have to be able to kill the how, right? We have to till the ground, right? We have to be able to evict the old logic in. We have to be able to bury dead memories that are, opposite of our desires. We have to impregnate the mind, right? We have to squeeze that desire into shape, which is yatsar, until we feel the relief of its fulfillment, right? The harvest does not wait for time, it waits for our conviction. So we must step out of the wayside and claim good ground, right? That's what the parable of the sower means, right? The sower has gone forth. Now let the word become matter. This is ultimately what we have to be doing in each and every instance, right? And if we're unable to do that, then ultimately we will not understand the psychological orientations of the Bible, right? Now, I will be doing a video on the nature of creation, and I want you all to put in the comments basically what are the desires that you're attempting to sow right now, right? What are the seeds that we're planting, right now, and where's our conviction at when we tend to look out into the world and we don't see exactly the things that it is that we want to do, right? That's kind of what we have to be able to do. And so if we're not able to do that, then how are we able to demonstrate absolute conviction, right? That's ultimately what God is saying when he says we need to have the faith of a mustard seed, right? A mustard seed believes that it is a mustard seed. This is not talking about the significance of the size and shape of the seed itself. It's talking about the recognition that the seed knows what its job is, correct? And so it is also singularly focused on its own operations, right? And that's kind of where we need to understand there is an esoteric or a deeper meaning behind faith of a mustard seed. It's not to say that we should have a little faith, is that if we have absolute conviction in the operations that we partake in, then our desires will